Welcome to the Details of Life. I'm your host, Marcus Wilson, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming back once again. I sincerely appreciate it, and I think you're going to appreciate me and the details of life even more after this episode, because today we have one of the juggernauts of AAU grassroots basketball, Chris Rivers. Chris is the founder and owner of now Tribute Sports Management, but where most of you know him from is overseeing Adidas Grassroots basketball. So we had a chance to talk about how we got into the AAU game, some of the greatest AAU teams ever that he's seen, which is a ton of them. Also had a chance to talk about, as you're overseeing a grassroots shoe circuit like that, what is your thought process of how to compete and be the best when you're competing against Nike and Under Armour? That's inside knowledge that no one else really has. Also had a chance to talk about when you're recruiting and managing top guys like James Harden, Derrick Rose, Tim Duncan, guys like that. What are some of the things they're looking for when they're trying to establish a shoe deal? You know, obviously it's the dollars, but then all the other things that the common fan wouldn't know about, this guy knows about, right? So awesome conversation. Then obviously move forward into what he's doing now as the founder and owner of Tribute Sports Management. So much great knowledge here. You're not going to get anywhere else. I'm really excited about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chime in with Chris Rivers. Like I just prefaced, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a special guest, a juggernaut in the AAU game, and is now the president and founder of Tribute Sports Management, Chris Rivers. How you doing, Chris?
Good morning. I appreciate you having me on, and I apologize. It looks like I'm too laid up because I'm laid up. I'm 7 days into hip replacement surgery number 2, so I'm not walking very well, so I just finished up all my meds. So if I say anything crazy, I'm going to blame it on the overdose of Tylenol.
We're going to charge it to the meds, man, but I'm sure I'm looking forward to getting started with this with you. So we'll start off, man, like, how did you get started with AAU? And I know you were Reebok and Adidas, and you got history with Oakland Soldiers. So how did you get even started in this grassroots basketball game?
I got started. I'm from Oakland, California. So grew up in Oakland, born and raised, lived in Oakland for 30 years. I got started with a program called Oakland Slam and Jam, founded and directed by a gentleman by the name of Calvin Andrews, who transitioned that name to the Oakland Soldiers. So I was like everyone else at 22 and 23. I was coaching spring leagues and fall leagues. I went to tournaments in Las Vegas in summer of 1993. I remember when I first saw Shea Cotton play, and I coached against Mike Bibby when he was 14U. My first 14U real team had Eddie House on it, who played 10 years in the league. So after that point, getting a taste of just what that excitement of high-level youth basketball was, I told myself in 1992, Marcus, that I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I'm going to make sure I'm in Las Vegas every year for this basketball tournament. And I haven't missed a year yet until now. So I was just coaching AAU. And Calvin Andrews, who was a huge mentor of mine early, and we go back to 1993. He's still a close, dear friend of mine and business associate. He saw some things in me. I was young. I was hungry. I wasn't afraid to be in the gym. At that point, I wanted to train. I wanted to coach. I wanted to run camps. I wanted to do all these things that all these young cats are doing at a much higher level now. But being in Oakland and being open to carrying boxes and passing out jerseys and driving kids home and spending Gatorade on other people's kids, that was something I was passionate about. And that's how I got started. But there's a kid named Ray Young, McDonald's All-American class of 1998. Ray Young went to UCLA. He played under Steve Lavin with Baron Davis, got Zurich, Jerome Moiso, Matt Barnes. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one of the kids from Kansas City, Jerron Rush. So, I mean, he was the kid that put me on the map. My association with him got me basically an invitation to ABCD camp with Calvin Andrews and Darren Matzabor, and I got to sleep on a floor, and that changed my whole life.
Wow, man. Those are some heavy hitters. I remember playing against Shea Cotton back because I came out in 95 in high school. I played against him at the time. That was the best high school player I had ever seen at the time. But, man, you named some heavy hitters. You know, want to kind of progress now because the way I just recently met you was one of my old teammates, Todd Hensley. We played together on the Spiece Jeansman. You know, his dad, Bill Hensley, started that program, and we were 15U teammates. And now he runs what is now progressed into the Indy Heat. So how did you get connected? You know, he's a big time Nike guy. You've had some experience with Reebok and mainly Adidas. How'd you guys get connected and form your relationship?
Our relationship formed once again, I'm pretty good with years, so give me 6 to 12-month year off. I believe I met Todd in 2004. When I left my first tenure at Adidas with Sonny Vaccaro in October of 03, and we went to Reebok October of 03, and we started our circuit in 04. We went out and we tried to secure the best programs in the country. So Spieth, Indy Heat, and Bill Hensley, obviously, if people who don't know, they had Greg Oden, Daquan Cook, Mike Conley, Josh McRoberts, Jeff Teague. I know I'm forgetting somebody, Aaron Cook. So that's how we started that relationship. But it wasn't until I went and visited the Spieth Memorial. Was it Memorial Day? No, it was Spieth, their first tournament in May. They actually went out there to Fort Wayne. Bill introduced me to Todd. Todd rolled off the red carpet, and his hospitality and genuineness was just something that was beyond basketball. So it wasn't about a shoe thing. They had an affiliation with Reebok, but what they were doing with that facility and the heritage that Spieth has for everyone in the region who's been there, or in the country, or in the world who's been to that, just kind of warmed my heart from a basketball purist. And Todd was about doing great business. He had that scrap and that hustle, and he had that extra edge to him, but it wasn't no BS. It was genuine. And Todd, as much, and Bill, rest in peace, who was a great man, Todd was able to just do all that heavy lifting, and we just formed a partnership, man, and a brotherhood. I don't recall if I left first from Reebok or he went to Nike first, but at that point, it was so locked in stone that we were going to be men and be business allies and just supporters in life. And the shoe stuff really didn't have anything to do with it. So all of the successes I've seen, the Spieth Indy he has, and his growth and development into other areas throughout the country is applauded, but not surprising, because that's just the work ethic he's put in place.
Yeah, man, I can vouch for all that you said, because even when we were playing together as freshmen, he was just scrappy. You know what I'm saying? He just had that chip on his shoulder. He worked hard. And you talked about that Indy Heat team with Greg Oden. I mean, that's one of the top 10 teams of all time, in my opinion. They were so good.
I mean, if just the fact that you think that, once again, as you get older, the way you view it changes. But to think that I'll say that, take me 2017, after that summer, I have no view of what's happened in the business. A lot of things have changed. But until 2017, I'll give myself 96 through 2017. And I didn't see everybody. But for everyone I saw, there weren't 4 better teams.
That says a lot, because you've seen a lot of teams. And like I said, I think they're one of the top. Yeah, I definitely think they're one of the top 10 teams.
This is the
you're saying
part.
Top 5.
Top 5, clearly. And I mean, what I liked about it, Mike Conley and Bill Hensley, they ran it like a pro team. They're like, man, we're not playing every weekend. Get out of here. We playing. They only played in what we used to classify as the major tournament. If it wasn't a major tournament, they weren't getting out of the bed. They weren't getting on the road. And that's so when they showed up, and everyone's always trying to hate on Mike. Mike can't do this. Mike can't do that. Mike's just this. He's just living off Greg. Yeah, Mike Conley is one of the most purest PGs. He's one of the most kind gentlemen, one of the most utmost professionals I've ever worked with. And his dad, who I know very, very well. It's just great to see those guys, outkick the coverage, outperform. Obviously, injuries happen, life happens. Greg's still doing great from what I can see and hear. I'm not directly close to them. But that Spieth Indy Heat group, man, was a huge part of my career growth. Because at that same time, not only did we have the Spieth group, we had the D1 Greyhounds with O.J. Mayo and Bill Walker, Sheldon Mack, Darius Miller, Keenan Ellis. So, I mean, whoever would have thought that Sheldon Mack and Darius Miller would have had longer basketball careers than Bill Walker at that time. If you know the history, you wouldn't have never thought about it. Right. And that's not to say anything about either of those. And that's not even talking about William Buford, who I'm waiting on Carmen's crew and the TBT to jump on TV tomorrow. I mean, William is still one of the most pure sharpshooters ever.
Yeah.
And then we also had the SoCal All-Stars, who some think might be the best team ever, with Kevin Love, Renardo Sidney, Brandon Jennings, Daniel Hackett, to go on and on, because they didn't lose for a whole year. So we just had a circuit. And at that time, when basketball was at its peak, it was a different era there. So it was different. It wasn't as many teams. I wasn't social media. But I know that I was a part of some very, very special youth basketball back in my career. And
you got me ready to hoop right now.
Was right at the top of it.
Yeah,
and that was just on our circuit, not to mention what they was doing at the other events and what KD was doing on the Nike circuit, and Under Armour circuit hadn't came about yet, and Adidas had a pretty good circuit with Mike Beasley and the Lopez brothers and Nolan Smith and Anthony Randolph. So when it was 3 circuits back then, if you just want to talk about the heat and the animosity and the competitiveness and the grind, you had a lot of men in a lot of different parts of the country who were getting after it, working hard, putting together teams, driving kids across state lines, playing in Arkansas, playing in Indiana, playing in Texas, playing in Georgia. If there was a tournament, guys were trying to go at it. That was before the circuit came. It was all about, we didn't care what you wore, can we get the best teams in one place? And then obviously that evolved and that had changed and things have been elevated since then. But it's been a great run.
Man, that's classic, man. So kind of want to build off of that is, you had an opportunity to help run Adidas and elevate that circuit to where it is now. So just want to pick your brain a little bit as a guy that's leading the charge on that, and you're competing against, like we said before, it was just one big conglomerate of teams. And then it started getting segregated where, Nike and Adidas and Under Armour primarily. So as you're trying to elevate Adidas to be the best grassroots circuit, how are you going about that from a business standpoint? And what are some of the things you're thinking to try to outdo, or are you even looking at what other shoe programs and circuits are doing, or are you just staying in your own lane? What is your thought process to try to be the best in that field?
Well, I don't want to dance away from the question, but I think it's a little bit of everything. You obviously want to have unique selling point, what to make what you're offering different. If we're all going after kid XYZ, every shoe company is going to come in and have one of their top programs try to recruit that kid and his family to come be a part of what they're doing. You got to have something that's unique about them. But I think that you also have to keep track of the other great things that the other circuits were having. And because when I started in the business, there weren't circuits. And when I finished in the business, circuits had kind of taken over. I kind of saw you could say the pros and cons of it both. But I think that the main thing that we tried to do, and I'm sure all the companies are doing it now, is you had to figure out what was most important to you. What was most important to the people that you reported to at the corporate level. And most of the people that show up at the tournaments, that do the rankings, that just deal with the culture of grassroots basketball that we know, very few people have been behind the doors in those meetings when you're talking multi-level, $5 million, $6 million, 15, maybe even close to $20 million budgets annually being spent in the space. And we all have people to report to. So as much as I got to run around and sit in gyms and be at Nations or be at the McDonald's game or run around, or the one day I snuck in the Peach Jam that they didn't know I was there for about an hour. Shout out to John Stovall and Vince Baldwin. But, all those things, we had to be competitive. But I think there's a lot more planning, a lot more organization, a lot more preparation that goes into it that the regular person is able to see, because there's business. It's a form of marketing. It's called sports marketing for a reason. Right. Companies are investing millions of dollars to go out and grow their brand platform. Everyone thought we were trying to get the next Mike or the next Kobe, or the next LeBron. It's bigger than that, because we don't know who's going to end who's going to be that guy at the very end. But you want to have relations with as many people as you can who you think at some point are going to carry enough weight to wear your shoe, to wear your logo on their shirt, to wear your hoodie, so that kids ages 6, 9, 11, 15 are going to be inspired enough to go out and buy their shoes. It's just a lot more complicated. We could do a whole show on that in itself, but a lot of thinking goes into it, because it's a 12-month-a-year calendar. It's not just the April evaluation. It's not just the May month. It's not just the June NBA PA camp. It's not just the July big month. Oh, it's August, there's high school, there's holiday tournaments, it's relationship building, it's product seeding. It's a 12-month integrated calendar that goes on. So whether the guys who are doing it in Baltimore, or the guys who are doing it in Beaverton, or the guys who are doing it in Portland, or I'm not sure if the guys in Boston with Puma are trying to get it going, those people who work in those departments right now have full-time jobs in the business of basketball. And I was blessed to be a regular guy from Oakland, California, to be a part of a lot of great things and learn and to develop into a professional during that process.
Man, you're right. I could talk about this with you for days. I love grassroots basketball. I love what AAU does. A lot of times people just kind of hear about certain pieces here and there, but it's so much bigger. I was just telling someone the other day, AAU gave me the first opportunity to really leave the state of Indiana. I remember traveling with Species Jeansmans down to Houston for a tournament. First time I've been on a flight was because of AAU and Bill Hensley and stuff. And so it's just it's so much bigger. And I know that was a broad question about the shoe circuits, but I also wanted to ask you kind of a similar question. Man, you recruited some of the best players. I mean, some Hall of Famers. I want to look at my notes here, but while you were at Adidas, you helped recruit some of the best players in the NBA: James Harden, Damian Lillard, Andrew Wiggins, Tracy McGrady, Chauncey Billups, Tim Duncan is, Hall of Famer, Dwight Howard, Derrick Rose. So when there's a top player trying to decide what shoe brand they want to go with, obviously they're thinking about money. Who can give them the most money? But also, what would be some other things that they're thinking about that the common fan may not know that they are considering when trying to choose a shoe?
That's a really good question, Marcus. First off, let me set the record straight. I work with Tim Duncan, didn't recruit him, worked with Mac, who I knew. I was there. I introduced T-Mac to LeBron when he's in high school, so that's how old I am. But I didn't recruit him.
Okay.
Derek was already at Adidas when I was there. Got to work 6 straight years with Derek and his family, and Reggie. Loved the Rose family. James Harden coming over was a part of that. Damian Lillard was a part of that. Andrew Wiggins was a part of that directly. So I just want to make sure I set the record straight. There's a lot of great teammates I had at my previous job who did all the heavy lifting. Jim Gattle being one of them, Chris Persinger, Zach Fawcett, a lot of guys who really did a lot of good heavy lifting to keep that business going. But to answer your question, I think every athlete's situation, their circle, their huddle, as I like to talk about it, provided different elements. I think the first question that you have to ask a player is, even to today, is there a shoe that you will not wear? Because every athlete has a point of view. So let's say you came up through one of the circuits, or you were able to play on multiple circuits or touch, you definitely have an affiliation, you have a relationship. And I think you got to start off with there. So let's say Andrew Wiggins' situation, when it came down to, he had wore Adidas in college, he had wore Nike coming up, so he had relationships with both of them. But I think the overall package, which definitely financial compensation is a huge part of that, plays a role. But then you have to look at where you're going to fall into a list. If you're a guy who thinks you're going to be a game changer, and they all think they are. Adidas, when they made the investment in Derek in 2008, when he's the number one pick, they figured he would be, probably not as quickly as he did. MVP in 3 years, selling shoes for 4 or 5 years. You couldn't keep his shoes on the shelf. But there's a lot of guys that they invested in that didn't have the same success rate. But if you had a son and you were bringing him into one of those meetings, first thing you have to evaluate is, where is he going to fall into the pecking order? Because getting a good deal and getting good compensation is great, but they aren't going to be able to put brand marketing and PR support behind it to tell your story, or when they're going to be able to do so plays a big role. I mean, it's no secret. Nike has, depending on who you ask, they have 6 to 8 guys right now in their lineup, and I'm not in their locker room, but I follow retail a little bit, that are pretty much locks. So from LeBron, Kobe, rest in peace, to AD, to Paul George, to, I mean, I'm not even talking about the Jordan guys with Russell and what's that kid's name? Zion. I'm not even talking about them. They got 8 to 9 guys that have not only significant financial investments into them, but they have huge businesses that have to have. And Adidas is not far behind with James and Dame. Derek is, not at the level that he was, but his business is China is still growing. Donovan Mitchell's coming. Young fellow, Trae Young. So you got to figure out there's only so much money that can be invested in an athlete to tell their story. And if you never work behind those closed doors, as I alluded to, there's people working 5-6 days a week, 12 months a year to grow these businesses. And a lot of guys I won't go into on this call, but we invested a lot of money in people, and they just never panned out from a performance standpoint. But it's not always their part. Sometimes the shoe companies didn't do their part, or sometimes the marketing plans weren't as strategic, or the product wasn't right at the right time, or a guy got traded, or he went from a big market to a small market. So I know I gave you a lot without probably giving you one thing. Money is a factor. Guys want to be valued for what they've done. But some people come in with a larger vision. It's like, okay, if the money's close, does company A, B, or C have a plan that's going to help me elevate and get to where I get to if my game matches? So Trae Young in Atlanta, I guarantee you he's already outperformed his contract after 2 years at Adidas. So when it's time to renegotiate, Donovan Mitchell, they renegotiated his early because he was just balling out so hard, and also being good brand ambassadors and being guys that are compelling. And what guys are doing on social media is, as you know from being in the industry, is so important. So the collective package of how athletes coming into the game is evaluated differently. now than it used to be. And you have to be more than just a guy who wants to go out and get 20 and 10, because 20 and 10 is a lot. But another fact you have to look at to what LeBron and the guys at the top of the game have done, how they've raised the stakes and how they've been more than just basketball players. And not saying everyone needs to be involved in politics or social justice or community give back, but when the guy at the top of the game is doing it, that's how everyone else is going to be evaluated, and you're going to be expected to give more. So the days of just saying, hey, I'm going to graduate from college, I'm going to be a top 4 or 5 pick, I'm going to get a 7-figure shoe deal, and I'm just going to be chill. I think that narrative is changing. Once again, I'm not in that space anymore day to day, but I track it a little bit, and it's just, there's a lot of people changing the game, and I think it's going to change again.
Man, that's an awesome answer. You may not think that you answered, but that's more knowledge than the common fan. And one thing that you hit on, you talked about having a plan for the guys. The average student athlete may be able to relate to that is, if you got Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky all offering you, yes, it's all high level stuff, but which program is going to put you in best position to succeed while you're there, run the offense through you, take you to the next level, which sounds like that's very similar to what these shoe companies are talking about doing once they get a guy. This is what we're going to do to market your brand, to put you in the best position to make your brand and thrive across America, and earn the most money.
And sometimes it might be someone telling you, hey, we're going to do this, but we're not going to do it immediately. Just someone being honest with you and saying, hey, we believe in you, but we have a couple other things we need to get done first. Freshman year, you may only get 6 or 7 field goal attempts per year. I know that's tough in this day and age if you're a top 25 or top 30 guy, but let's, don't get it twisted. I know my McDonald's history. Out of the 24 guys that make the McDonald's game each year, I think the average is close to 12 or 13 that actually play in the league. So making that McDonald's game isn't a guaranteed shoo-in that you're going to play in the NBA. Nonetheless, a shoo-in that you're going to play 2 or 3 years. I was watching the TBT yesterday, and I won't call his name out there, but there's a guy I know in 2012 that we signed from a blue blood school that just didn't work out in the NBA, and that's okay. And he's out there trying to get buckets in the TBT. And there's just so many layers to this that as people in the business, we have a responsibility to inform families and athletes, the next generation of AAU coaches. As now you're on the mentor side, you're on the leadership side. We got to give them the truth. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay for your guy to be ranked high. It's okay for you to make the call. Yeah, my guy is 6'7", he's this, he's born. All that's okay. We get excited. We should celebrate those excitements. However, we need to talk about what's on the other side, and that it's not guaranteed, and then it may not happen. And we also need to celebrate some of those people who have the unprecedented success, those guys who weren't top 100, guys who weren't top 200. How did everybody miss on John Morant? I missed him too. But we realize that there's nothing for hard work, sacrifice, being a good person, going to a school that fits you, and getting your butt in the gym the right way, and understanding it's a grind. And for those who the game has come easy, and those who have huge, big social followings and all that that's cool, man. But that's not going to get you to the end. It's the only thing that really matters. And I tell all my AU guys right now, I don't care how good your guy is right now. If Adam Silver doesn't call his name, it don't mean nothing yet. Man. Not negating what he's done, because Shea Cotton had one of the most greatest prep careers ever that can never be taken away. And Shea Cotton is doing great things right now on the social responsibility side and giving back. He's taking everything that he learned to that. But everyone just can't get across that finish line. And how are you going to deal with that when you don't make it? Who's going to be there for you when you went to blue blood school and you played 2 years, and then you want to blame the coach because your minutes per game was only 13 instead of 21, and you didn't start because you were playing behind a pro? And who's going to be there to pick up those pieces? And as a culture, as an AAU culture, we got to get better at prepping guys for that. And there's a lot of guys out there where you want to talk about Atope, or you want to talk about Mike Mones, or Keith Stevens, or Jazzy Hartwell in Dallas, who just passed, rest in peace, or Julio down in Atlanta, Winford Jordan down in Atlanta. It doesn't matter about the shoe circuit. There's a lot of guys doing it the right way. And I always try to talk about the AAU circuit, as I know I'm drifting here. Think about how many people are giving time to kids who don't have their last name. We all got started because of one kid or a son or a neighborhood group. But guys have been doing it for years and years and years. Guys aren't making money like that off AAU. Guys have found ways to build businesses, to run tournaments, to partner and stream. And now guys are getting creative, obviously, with this COVID situation that we're in. But the AAU guy, the director, is an undervalued commodity in our community, working with predominantly Black kids, providing opportunities, saving lives, opening up doors, and being mentors. And we got a whole bunch of mess to the game too. That's a whole nother show. Been a part of some of that. But what guys are doing from the core, their true passion for what they want to do is genuinely found in competition, helping giving guys opportunities. And we all want to be a part of a winning team. So when we want to sit here and debate who was the best team, there is no right answer, but it's no different than, is Mike better than LeBron? Is The Last Dance better than, I mean, we can go on and on. That's just how we are as a society. So I know I just went way off on the tangent, but that's what happens when you got 20 years of information, 20 years plus of history, that I'm passionate about this sport. Sport was very, very good to me. And now working on the management side with Tribute Sports, we are not an agency. We're trying to help to provide career guidance for athletes. We're trying to be that support system for guys when they become pros or high level overseas, and see how we can make their careers evolve and just keep them organized, keep them profitable, keep them balanced, and just be that extra layer of protection within their circles, because we all need good structures. Yeah. And as you get to each level, doesn't mean you can't keep bringing the same people with you, but you have to also add some new elements of people who can bring new layers of sophistication and being able to vet things out. Because the higher the stakes are, the more the expectations are going to be.
Big facts, man. That's you dropped a lot of knowledge about a lot of things right there. But the last thing I do want to touch on you with is, you just brought it up. You're founder, owner, Tribute Sports Management. So for people that don't know what it is, you kind of said, but like what services do you provide, and where are you looking to go with this?
Tribute Sports Management started in the fall of October 18. And I'm a guy in 1996 who was moved by the movie Jerry Maguire. And I always thought I wanted to be an agent. That's what I thought my calling was going to be. But fast forward, working in the industry, working with some of the most impressive agents in the business. We don't have enough time to list them all. I realized that being an agent isn't my calling. However, providing management services where I'm helping with off the court development. Obviously, there's some marketing involved to that. Career guidance is a piece of that. That's a role that I think I can play. I've always been someone involved in leadership and mentorship, and I just wanted to formalize it under a company. And I'm hoping that, once one or two players per year and families will give us a shot to help guide their careers. So that's one piece of what we're doing. We're also starting a camp platform where hopefully in 2021, post-COVID, I'll be able to work with some of Ty Hindley's former athletes who are now pros and who want to do camps and want to do give back. So there's a lot of things that we're working on. TributeSportsManagement.com will give you a high-level overview, but I'm just a cat from Oakland, California, who was blessed to have good parents who fell in love with the game of basketball at the age of probably 19. And I'm just trying to use that as a vehicle to work with other people, give back, keep my bills mostly paid, and have conversations with gentlemen like you who are taking the game to the next step.
Man, I appreciate it, man. This has been awesome. I know a lot about the game because obviously I played professionally. I coach college. Yep. I've coached AAU, but man, to be able to pick your brain on all this stuff has been awesome. So before we get out of here, Chris, I know you just said it, but give the people one more time, what's the name of your website so they can find out more about what you're doing right now?
Appreciate that. Tribute Sports Management, sports with an S. We named the company Tribute Sports as homage to my father, who was the most influential person. And my mom held it down too. But my dad held it down in a different way as far as just giving me those life principles about just shaking someone's hand firmly, look someone in the eye when you speak to them, saying thank you, saying you're welcome, just those fundamental principles. But it's also evolved to every person I've named, whether it's Todd Hensley, whether it's Atope, whether it's Keith Stevens, the list is Dwayne Barnes. I could go on for ages about people who have trusted me to be a part of their process that's helped me turn into the professional I am. So that's my tribute I'm paying back to all those people. And we're going to grow a business, and we're going to be involved in sports management, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But I'm going to keep tracking AAUs. I read their rankings like everyone else. I don't get passionate into them like I used to. I'm looking forward to 2022 when guys can make the jump allegedly and see what all the things that's going to bring about. I'm keeping track of the NIL, name, image, and likeness, how that's going to affect my business, how we can be a part in helping families, and how that's going to change the game. And it all sounds great, but there's going to be some hurdles around that too that people better be prepared for. So, I'm blessed, and I appreciate you taking time to have me on this morning. And I might actually go for a walk around my house and, work out some of these cramps, but I'm only on day 8, so I got to take it slow on the road back to recovery.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and spending the time with me today and take it easy, man. You like you said, you about to go on a walk, man. You already
Short
showed me.
walk.
People don't know before we got started. You showed me the walker, man. So make sure you take it easy and get healthy,
keep
man.
it off the screen. Keep it off the screen. I got to maintain my level that I got a walker. But hey, when you get a little older, you got to have a little bit of work done. I need my hips polished up because I don't hoop no more, but I talk a lot of trash still. So I got to make sure I can back it up a little bit.
I hear you, brother. Well, like I said, thanks.
But before you go, I want to come in and thank you on what you're doing on the platform that you're providing to not only old heads like me in the game, but for new guys in the game, the fact that you're able to find a platform to speak openly and honestly and have different points of views. And I think that's genuinely, and for the people that want to learn, I think that's critical. And one question I always get asked about young guys is, how'd you get your first job in the shoe? How'd you do that? And I tell people this: if you keep your word and you're honest, you're already 75% better than most people in the game.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Because we know there's a lot of guys in this business who put a lot of extra mayonnaise on it. I'm not saying I haven't done it, but I've been pretty good at not making no sandwiches. So thank you for having me.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. Big respect to you and good luck to you in this next stage with TSM, and we'll be in touch with you, all right?
Okay. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for coming on. That was awesome. Like I told you guys at the beginning, that was knowledge that you can't get anywhere else. There's very few people that have been at the level that he's been inside those boardrooms, inside those conversations to know what's really going on. So thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to be on the Details of Life. I sincerely appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what you do in the next stage of your life with Tribute Sports Management. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, we're not stopping. We're going to continue to bring you high-level people from all circuits: Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, independents, anyone that can help you get some knowledge on how to be better, whether you're a student athlete, a parent, a college coach, another AAU team. If you want to get better, we're bringing on the people that's going to help you see the inside details of how to get better. Because you know what? That's right. Greatness is in the details, guys. Make sure you continue to like, subscribe, and share. Come back next week. Thank you guys for your support. Have a great week. Peace.